Good morning. So this morning we were talking about H-1B visas, and we are going to give a brief overview so that we can provide some general information about exactly what an H-1B visa is. And as Helen mentioned, if you find that you need more information or want to learn more about this, have questions, please drop an email to info@rajulaw.com. So to get started, an H-1B visa is in the classification of a non-immigrant visa, and it is available for individuals in specialty occupations. It requires the individual to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree or an equivalent experience, and it can be valid for anywhere from 3 to 6 years. It generally starts off with 3 years, and then through extensions and providing the additional documentation, then you can get it extendable for up to 6 years. Next slide, please. In order to address the eligibility aspect of the H-1B, we wanted to discuss that briefly. To be eligible for an H-1B visa, it is based both on the job's requirements for specialized knowledge and the individual's qualifications to perform the job at hand. We want to make sure that there's an alignment between both the occupation, its specialties, and the individual's experience and qualifications. So specialty occupations typically require more than basic knowledge. So it needs to be evidence of specialized knowledge, and through the bachelor's degree or other form of higher equivalent education or certification, that's how we would demonstrate that the individual meets the level of specified knowledge required for the position. As far as the degree requirement goes, the job must have a minimum entry requirement of a bachelor's degree or higher. This is going to show that through the bachelor's degree or the equivalent specialized certification, that there is more than basic information, more than basic skills required. So it does align to a more advanced understanding of the subject area of the specialty field. Now, there is, with that higher education degree requirement, there's also an annual cap of 65,000 visas plus 20,000 for advanced degree exemption. So these are all factors to be aware of and to know about so that you can begin planning and strategizing your H-1B visa. I think next slide is for Helen will take over. Right?
Thanks, Chelsea. Yeah, no, there's more that I was going to mention for this slide as well. So as far as like the cap goes, so there's about 65,000 H-1B visas available every year, and there's an additional 20,000 reserved for people with a master's degree or higher. So in that kind of an instance, there's about 250,000 applicants per year. You know, on average, obviously, it kind of changes as years come. So overall, there's about a 1 in 3 chance of being selected in this lottery system, just because there's so many people that want to get one of these visas. Obviously, a lottery is kind of the most fair way of going about that. However, there is a bit of an advantage if you did have a master's degree. So this is called like the master's cap, because each fiscal year there's about 20,000 H-1B visas specifically set aside for those with a master's degree. So this is in addition to the regular cap of 65,000. So if you have a master's degree, you first enter the master's cap lottery. And then if you are selected, great. And if not, then you have the second chance to go into the regular cap lottery. So those with a master's degree are definitely have a little bit more advantage for sure in this type of a thing. So if you are thinking about getting a master's or you're almost done with your master's, you know, this is something to be aware of, that you might be able to get this visa a little bit easier than if you didn't have that. So then I was going to go to, and I also wanted to mention there is cap exempt employers. So that means that you don't have to wait to do this lottery. They're not a part of this. You can apply for an H-1B visa through that specific cap exempt employer around the year. It's not relevant to this. It's kind of like an extra special type of category. So these are institutions of higher education, nonprofits related to or associated with higher education, nonprofit research organization, a governmental research organization, and that sort of a thing. So this also includes like a teaching hospital. So even if you are not really involved in that specific part, just because the teaching hospital is, usually associated with the higher education and things like that, that's a good way of potentially coming in if that's obviously in your relevant field. The next slide, we're going to talk about the H-1B visa application journey. So this is kind of like a step by step, and this is coming from the employer's perspective. So this is the employer looking to then sponsor an H-1B visa applicant. So step one is a labor condition application, or LCA. This is something that they complete with form ETA 9035 or 9035E. The labor condition application, and this is through the Department of Labor. They have a portal. Then the employer has to provide notice of the LCA filing to the concurrent workforce, and this can be done electronically or maybe physically at the workplace as well. Then they file their LCA with the Department of Labor, and they wait for their certification. And this can take about 7 business days. This is important because it helps ensure the protection of U.S. workers and of foreign workers' wages. So then step 2 is a petition for the non-immigrant worker. This is form I-129, and they would complete that form, which includes their certified LCA with the person, along with supporting documents that prove that the job qualifies as a specialty occupation, because remember, that's one thing that you have to prove as well, and that also the candidate is eligible to meet the requirements for that specialty occupation. The employer pays, required fees, a base filing fee for a fraud prevention and detection fee, and, et cetera, et cetera. Then they would submit their form I-129 package to the appropriate USCIS service center, and they have to also make sure that they register during the designated registration period, which is typically in early March. So this, like I said, it's, cap exempt, and it's also around a certain time of the year. It's not all year round, unless you are in one of those special cap exempt employers, like a nonprofit sort of a thing. Then step 3 is the USCIS is processing it. So they, send out a receipt to the employer confirming that they have received it. They process the petition, which can take several months. Nothing really happens fast with the immigration world, as I'm sure everybody watching this is well aware. They do allow premium processing for an additional fee, and then they would be able to get a response then within 15 calendar days. So that is fast, but you have to obviously pay to kind of bypass that time frame. And then they could also issue an RFE, which is a request for evidence, which they'll let you know, we need more evidence for, whatever sort of a thing, in order to make sure that either the job requires is a specialty occupation, or that the person would qualify for that specialty occupation. Then once they are done, they will send out an approval or a denial notice, and they'll issue an I-797, which is the approval notice. So if the number of registrants exceed the annual cap, which obviously it does on a regular basis, then that's when USCIS conducts the random lottery. The employers are notified if their registrants have then been selected in the lottery. So, they have to first make sure that you're applicable, that, everything kind of checks out. And then those that are approved in that way, that they meet the satisfactions of all the things, then they get placed into the lottery from there. So then step 4, the visa application for the beneficiary is notified. Everyone would know if you were approved, if you were selected or not. So for those that are selected in the lottery, the employer is eligible then to file and complete form I-129 H-1B petition within the designated filing period, which usually then starts April 1st. So the the employer applies for the H-1B visa at the U.S. Embassy or the consulate in their home country, depending upon where they are physically located, which includes submitting a DS-160 form and scheduling a visa interview. So if someone is already living inside the country, there's no need to apply at for the H-1B at a U.S. consulate or embassy. Instead, the employer would then just request a change of status for the employee as part of the whole H-1B petition process. Then following the interview, the visa may be approved and issued. Then step 5, admission to the United States. Once the H-1B visa is stamped in the employee's passport, they can then travel to the United States. And there is a form I-94 that the employee receives upon entry, which indicates that their status and authorized period of stay. The employer should also include a copy of the beneficiary's current form I-94, which is the arrival departure record that shows their lawful admission and status in the U.S. So also a part of this is ongoing compliance. So, the employer has to keep records of the LCA compliance and be prepared for any sort of audit. You have to monitor your visa expiration. The employer should be tracking this as well as an I-94 expiration date to make sure that your extensions are filed in a timely manner if you will continue to be employed. So that's kind of a bit of the roadmap and the journey to getting the H-1B and starting working in America in that sort of a visa. So there's lots of features and benefits of an H-1B visa. This is typically known as a dual intent visa, which is really pretty unique among non-immigrant visas because it allows the H-1B holder to also seek permanent residency. So, if you're if you're an F1 student and you're here at school, you're not able to do that. You have to switch to a different type of, a lot of F1 students would then look for an H-1B visa in order to work properly. And then after that, you can also, it's okay if you want to get a green card because, a lot of these things, like if you're a B1, B2 and you're only here for, travel and leisure type of things, you're not allowed to then apply for a green card. So with that kind of intent, you're thinking that you're only here for a short amount of time. So with an H-1B visa, you can be here a short amount of time, or you can want to be here a long amount of time. Either way, it's a dual intent. So that's definitely one of the pluses for this type of visa. It also gives the holders flexibility to change their job without losing their status, as long as their new employer files a new H-1B petition. The H-1B visa portability feature is a significant aspect of, it's called the American. So this gives the H-1B visa holder flexibility to change jobs without losing their status. You have to make sure that you maintain your valid H-1B status, which means that you must not engage in any unauthorized employment or otherwise violate the conditions of their status. If your H-1B status is held to, you being in the pharmaceutical industry as a drug developer or something, and then you take like a side job as, a musician because maybe you're a really good piano player, and that kind of where it is not okay under this sort of a thing. You have to only work under the category in which it was approved and with your H-1B status tied to. But there are some benefits also for the family members of an H-1B holder. For spouses and children, they can get H-4 visas to live legally in the U.S. The family members can attend school, and under certain conditions, they can also get a work authorization. They can get a social security number, driver's license, travel in and out of the country, and they also have the option to pursue permanent residency in the future. And the H-4 visa validity just has to also match the H-1B visa holder's duration of stay. So as long as the H-1B holder is, here in a valid status, then the H-4 is also. So, this is really a good way for attracting and retaining skilled workers for the United States. So, this really allows the US to bring in these workers that are not necessarily here already. So, it's a great way to kind of fill in those critical gaps and foster innovation and competitiveness, across the different industries and things like that. So it really is a helpful way for, not just the H-1B person, but it's also really helpful for America because there's a lot of things that, is helpful with the tech field or STEM in general, but this doesn't have to just be STEM. This could be, other industries as well. But that comes to the conclusion of everything I had wanted to discuss today. So, like we had said earlier, if you want to send us an email with any questions, info@rajulaw.com. Our website also has a lot of additional information. You can look to see our legal fees are we're very upfront with all of them. They're right on the website. If you had any questions with that, on our website there, rajulaw.com. I'm on LinkedIn, at Helen Partlow is my name. Our law firm is on LinkedIn. I know a lot of people kind of keep in touch that way, and it's a good way to kind of follow. I like to post things. I do a lot of things with the EB2 and IWs, so I share any sort of updates from USCIS and things like that kind of come about as things go on in time. So, but if you are interested in anything else, we do obviously all different types of immigration law. You can go to the website to find out more information. But that pretty much concludes, like I said, everything I wanted to say today. So I wanted to thank you, Chelsea, for joining me and helping explain all these things about H-1B visas.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great day.